we can all, I'd like to just start out with this because I think it's powerful as I sent it in to Amanda. So I'm going to read it to you. It's long. It's a little bit longer than I normally do. So don't worry about trying to remember it. It's on your email blast. You can always print it off. Okay. It says, through the power of the indwelling Christ, divine order is now established in my mind, my body, and in the circumstances of my life. Through the power of the indwelling Christ, divine order is now established in my mind, my body, and in the circumstances of my life. I want you to breathe that in about the indwelling Christ's presence and how divine order is established. So I'm going to read it one more time. Through the power of the indwelling Christ, divine order is now established in my mind, my body, and in the circumstances of my life. When I say that and when I read it, it just brings me peace. So take that with you this week and hold on to that indwelling Christ presence, because divine order is always being established right now. Always. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I titled it Hope, Hardship, and Purpose. We all have hope at times. See if you can relate to this. Have you had hope and then that hope gets squished? And when that hope gets squished, we experience the hardship. And eventually, as we wade through that hardship, we start to find purpose. Sometimes we can find that very quickly. Sometimes it takes years. But it really is true. We have hope, we have hardship, and we have purpose. Haven't we all been experiencing this since March? You know? And aren't many of us experiencing it right now? As our hope seems to now feel like more of it's turned into a hardship. We hoped that the numbers were getting better. And then as cold weather started approaching, our hope got squished. And now the numbers for the virus have escalated so fast. And now we've got the governor of Ohio, I can speak for that one, saying we got to get the numbers down so we can keep businesses open. So here comes this feeling that we had of hope. And now it's like, no. I don't want things to close down again. I want to be able to, we've got the freedom, to go get our hair cut when we want right now. Right now, we're able, and your workout place, most of them are still open. Our restaurants are still open with restrictions. And now I'm starting to feel like all that's going to get squished again. You know, something that I watched in the beginning of this pandemic, as we hoped it wasn't going to come to the United States. Then we hoped it wasn't going to come closer to Kentucky or Ohio or Indiana. We hope it was going to stay over on that coast or that coast. That it wasn't going to come and get my little part of the world, right? And then it came closer. And what I watched through that hope getting squished and becoming a hardship, I watched people. I watched some of you on this screen find purpose. Like within a week, I saw several of you going into mass production of masks from your sewing machine and your dining room table. I saw some of you who are sewers making bags to put supplies in for people who are experiencing homelessness. I even know somebody that's out there making dog covers for your car. It doesn't necessarily have to be for the needy. They found a purpose in their life, just something to be able to restore ourselves back to hope. And I keep watching people and the resilience that we have, that when we have hope and it gets squished, that we are resilient people to be able to find and navigate to another way through it. I'm going to give a big shout out. I can't see all of you on my screen at one time. I can see maybe 12. But I want to give a big shout out to the teachers out there in our world who have a moment of hope and it gets squished so fast in the course of their day of trying to teach our kids, virtual, in school, doing both at the same time. A shout out to you parents who have kids at home and trying to work from home and at the same time having your kids on screens connecting with their teachers. But how creative you all are getting. You know, there is someone here on our screen that's in a 1-bedroom apartment and Monday through Friday has 2 little kids at the dining room table on their Zoom screens or their device to be able to entertain the 3-year-old, and the 8-year-old is on a Zoom screen, and the adult in the house is working from home. I don't know how you all manage this. I don't know how you people on the screen who are in the healthcare industry, I don't know how you are managing it, but you keep rising up through hardship. You keep rising up and you find a purpose. Or you're finding what your purpose is right now in this now moment. Sometimes we have hope and it comes to fruition. Many times I have hope and it comes to fruition. And what I have found for myself in those moments when that happens, I can easily get lazy about prayer and beseeching prayer. And I can get just lazy about I get very lax.
Finally.
Isn't that something how that can happen with us, right? Well, what I found is, so I don't get too big headed about that, is staying in gratitude. Staying in gratitude. And that's what I watched, whether your hope was squelched or whether your hope was met. Staying in gratitude is key. It's the key element. You know, I keep saying this word resilient, and I really can't find a better word, at least for today, that fits. But there is a resilience in people to overcome great sadness when we, as Mr. Rogers would say, when we look for the helpers, the ones who show up in our life to give us comfort, support, those people who show up and give us hope and remind us there's hope. I mean, several weeks ago, I did Pandora's Box, and it was all about what remained in that box was hope. I want to tell you, I watched a movie last night that has been released. It just actually was released, I think, on Thursday or Friday. Greta Thunberg, who is the teenage activist from Sweden, who is adamant about getting to our world leaders about climate justice. And there is a documentary out now on Hulu, and it is called I Am Greta. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my talk. What she's dealing with is my talk. This is a girl who has hope. She has a dream, and she has hope that we can turn this around, this climate change, that we can still turn it around. She has hope. And as she has hope and she puts herself out there, what the hardship that she is faced by trying to stand for something that is important to her. People are making fun of her. People are calling her a spoiled brat. People are calling her mentally ill because she has Asperger's. They're being cruel out there. They've made death threats to her family. She states in this film that there's a pivotal point where she wanted to give up. But none of this was worth it. She started to go, you know how we all do that, right? When we have hope and it gets squelched, we're just like, nobody's listening anyway. What's the use, right? What's the use of having hope? And then she realized she has a major purpose here, and she's sticking with it. How do we stay resilient when we are in such a challenge right now? Well, I ran across a Bible verse out of Ephesians that I want to take to you because it's titled, this is how you stay resilient. Put on the armor of God. Now, this is written very much of fear and the devil and all of that. But what I love about unity is we take this reading and we metaphysically interpret it to what is it telling us today? How do we put on the armor of God when we are meeting such a challenge right now? Not only in the pandemic, But in the racial justice, climate justice, there's so many elements going on at once right now. You can pick which one you want to focus on. The pandemic, of course, is blaring in our faces 24 hours a day. How do we put on the armor of God? And does Unity really believe that we can put on the armor of God? Absolutely. When you metaphysically interpret this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to read it to you. I'll try and read it a little bit fast, and then I'll kind of just dice it up a little bit. It says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Okay? We don't subscribe to the devil. So you just replace that word with negative thinking, negative things. So we stand against that. We're not going to let that into our psyche. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against authorities, against the powers of the dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Can you see how when people take this literally, they can go and fight and kill in the name of God because it's in the Bible? This is not what it was intended to be. I'll continue. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you've done everything to stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. That seemed rather like a double meaning here. I'm supposed to be ready with the full armor of God and all of that, and this breastplate in place, and I'm supposed to be grounded in the gospel of peace. I'll continue. In addition to all of this, take up your shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Woo! No wonder I didn't like these readings as a kid. I can remember when this was read to me, and I thought, what a fearful, I got to be afraid all the time. But Unity has opened my eyes to metaphysics, taking the physical word and not taking it literally, but going beyond the literal word. So how do we stay resilient in these times? By putting on the armor of God. So what is that? All right. You take and you stand against the devil's schemes. We do not take in negative experiences and thought into our psyche and into our heart center. And then we have what? Peace or pain? Pain. I want to see somebody out there saying pain. I hope you chose the right word. So take your stand. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the powers. Okay, they're not talking about outside rulers and authorities. They're talking about the rulers and authorities of your mind. Okay, so it is not of the flesh and blood, but against our mind. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, which can be in any moment of our life, right? I can have the day of evil come and a tree blows over and falls on my car today. Okay? That's a negative experience. Now, what I do with that is by putting on the armor of God, knowing and trusting that experience does not own me. This experience of the pandemic does not own me. I will find peace. Stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. You know the truth. And how does it say? And that truth will what? Set me free. So hold that buckle of truth around you with the breastplate of righteousness. I looked up the word righteousness, and it says comprehending holy principles and affections of the heart and conformity of life to divine in the divine law. So the breastplate of righteousness. Where's a breastplate? What is it protecting? Your heart and your lungs, right? So you want to protect that by the power of your mind. So you put that on and you stand firm and ready. That your readiness comes from the gospel of peace, not war. It says peace. In addition to this, take up your shield of faith, which you can, with that, okay? Your shield of faith, which you can extinguish all flaming arrows of the evil one. So my shield of faith is here. It's like a plexiglass. That's how I imagine it. And I have that. I can put that up anytime when I feel that negative arrows are coming at me. You've all been around circumstances where don't you feel like there's like a whole slew of them coming at you at once? And they'll bounce. They can bounce right off of that shield of faith. They can only penetrate you if you let it in your mind, and it will then penetrate your whole being and your whole experience of your day. It says, take out the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. To me, that means send out only thoughts and words of peace, goodwill, and love to our neighbors and to ourselves. Woo! I got to tell you, I had to do some work on this because when I read this, it was like, I don't think I'm going to talk about the armor of God because this is too hard to metaphysically interpret. But then it became really fun. And I know that some of you out there who are like on LUT tracks, especially, you know how it is fun. It becomes fun to take these kind of scary readings and interpret them. It's just amazing. So I thought about this and I'm like, put on the armor of God, right? This is what Jesus did. This is, get ready. The list can go on and on. This is what Martin Luther King did, Mother Teresa did, Nelson Mandela, Madame Curie, Jane Goodall, Rosa Parks. The list goes on. These are people that had hope, and their hope got extinguished constantly. And they rose up and put that armor of God on, knowing, no, I'm not going to take it into my psyche. I'm going to protect my heart and stay in the stream of love. I have the shield of faith to protect me from all of this negativity that's coming at me. And I can stand in the peace of God, stand firm in my truth. And that's what this list of people have done. And they found and stuck to their purpose. Whew. I got to breathe and I got to start to bring this to a close. But I just want to share with you I think about my own life, and I want you to think about your own life. How many of us have had hope for a successful marriage and it didn't work out? Only to then find out there was a higher purpose for us. Yes. How many people have had tragic, sudden death in their families? Many of us, many of us. And it's horrific and it's hardship, and you don't know you're ever going to get through it. And then helpers show up to remind you hope is not gone, it is not lost. And you start to find a new purpose in your life. So I close with a reading that couple things I found. This may be related, felt like it to me, but this is from Eckhart Tolle, and I have another one from a Buddhist reading that I follow. Eckhart Tolle says, give up waiting as a state of mind. When you catch yourself slipping into waiting, snap out of it. Come into the present moment. Just be and enjoy being. So when you find yourself waiting, snap out of it. Waiting for the coronavirus to get through, waiting on the virus the vaccine. We're waiting on that. We're waiting on, and we're missing the present moment. If you find yourself waiting for schools to get back to normal, we're going to be in pain. Stay in the now moment. And then my Buddhist reading I close with is it says, I encourage you and me to ask ourselves, how can each of us find a way to compassion and connection? Maybe through spiritual practice, compassionate work for others and for our world, or connection with the trees, the mountains, and Mother Earth. How can I find a way? This is connection right here. And we know how important at Unity of Garden Park to remain connected with you. And I know Zoom is like, oh my gosh, for so many of us, it's like I got another Zoom meeting. But when I get on that meeting and I see the faces of the participants, I'm like drawn right to you. Like there's an instant heart connection, even though it's through technology. I look at every one of your faces right now, and it just fills my heart. So stay spiritually connected with your family here. There's going to be lots more ways and classes and lunch with the minister and all these different ways we're going to move through this to stay in the present moment and not wait on the vaccine in order for you to have joy. I love you all, and I say namaste, that the Christ presence in me truly sees and honors that Christ presence in each and every one of you. Namaste.